The narrative always comes from, the client, the sort of initial idea that they want.
So we always look at how we can bring in art in a way that can enhance the experience.
It needs to be filled with something that you can't buy off the shelf.
And we have a little black book of artists that we do.
You do?
Like.
I want to get my hands on this book.
But also, I love to hear the feedback on each different venue.
Do you welcome feedback?
Yes, I do, because it's subjective.
Our clients find that they can't verbalize what they want, and we show them what they actually wanted.
Usually clients in Dubai is saying, I wanted this yesterday.
We were actually quite strict on timelines.
If you want to come on this journey with us, let's develop something beautiful and something special, but we do need the time.
How is it to work together, to be life partners and work partners?
And it took us probably about 3 years to get to that point where we were very comfortable
as a team.
It's about realizing what you're good at and what you're not.
We have a check-in system. I would say, where are you? And you would say, I'm sitting at 20%. Then I know I have to pick up the 80%.
Hi Shad, how are you?
Hi Valeria, a new week.
Yes.
This week went super fast. I always say that our weeks was hectic, but you know what? This weekend I had a relaxed moment in Six Senses. So I'm super relaxed now. Yeah.
That's good for
How
you.
was your week?
My week was hectic.
Hectic?
Yeah, like every week I say, how's your week? My week was really intense.
This is our reality, no?
It's not over. My week is still continuous.
Guys, we have some super interesting people in the studio tonight.
Yeah, we actually have a really interesting duo, Neydine and Dewald Struwig, visionary co-founders of VERHAAL Studio. And VERHAAL, which means in Afrikaans a well-told tale, is actually the design approach that the studio takes in their work. So let's dive in. Hi, Dewald. Hi, Neydine. How are you?
Hi.
How are you guys?
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm really looking forward
nice.
to this because you guys are very interesting duo, actually. I want to know directly. I'm going to deep dive directly. Is that fine?
Deep dive in.
A tale, a well-told tale. Tell me a little bit about that. What does that mean? How do you guys find, because you guys work a lot with philosophy and trying to adapt that into your projects. Tell me a little bit. What does that mean for you guys?
So we always, when we do the design work, we always look at the narrative or the journey with the client. And when we said we wanted to open our own studio after we've been toying around with the idea, we thought what would be a very inherently heritage type, connection to our South African roots. So we thought VERHAAL would be a quite apt name to call the studio, because that's basically what we do. We do stories and
You're telling stories.
We're
Yeah.
telling stories
story,
on someone else's perspective, using our inspiration and our eye to tell it, so that they can also have a good journey.
How would you tell a story? How would you tell a story for a client? Because telling a story, it's easy to tell a story for yourself and say, create a story for yourself. But you're now working with other people, So how do you take their words and create a story out of it?
I think the narrative always comes from, the client, the sort of initial idea that they want. And we extrapolate that and we sort of chew the idea around, and we come up with a sort of a story and a narrative really that we think suits what they're trying to accomplish and envisage for their design. So, although we look at different aspects of inspiration, it really comes down to what we're trying to create for our clients, and ultimately what their goal is.
You also mentioned that it's a serendipity. You always find some kind of objects that create this tale for the client. This is how you start your design concept? You start with gathering all the things, like different ideas, artifacts, everything, and then you create these tales, stories for the client, or you get the design brief first from the client and then you use it for creating the tale?
It varies really, but for example, we're working on a project now in Saudi, and the clients were very specific. They wanted to be quite Mediterranean, and now with everyone traveling a lot, to merge different cultures together in an indirect way, which we always try and do. It's not very obvious sometimes, the narrative that we're trying to create. Also because we want it to be quite layered. So we would take a heritage element and we'll deep dive into not necessarily the history, but we'll look at the food that, you know, is quite available or that's quite frequently eaten or enjoyed in certain regions, and we'll try and extrapolate whether it's colors or the taste or the feeling or the mood that goes around that, and then we'll start evolving the story. So for example, the one was like a sukari date that we extrapolated because of the color that we combined with the lemon. And then we start putting that story together for the client, and that makes them excited. But the initial concept from them was it's a Saudi Middle Eastern inspired Mediterranean restaurants. So we look at it and we go through all the concept developments, and we read a lot. We look at cuisines, and then we see how we can link the two together in a very non-obvious way. And then once we present it, we see that the feedback is quite exciting. I mean, usually it's quite exciting. And then we develop it from there in terms of schematic and design development. So the narrative is very much an indirect aspect from the client, and then we take it from there and we tell the story back to them.
Do you guys have any F&B background? Because, so myself, before I started with architectural and design, I was in F&B and hospitality myself. You know, that was, we spoke about this a couple of times, you know. Do you guys have any you know, background in F&B, in hospitality prior to this?
I think we always joke about it. You know, our background isn't necessarily working in F&B. It's about being in F&B.
Yeah.
You know, before we started our business, we were literally instinctively sort of drawn, making lists of restaurants and places to go and see and eat, and not only, you know, go to the restaurant for the food aspect, but also to look at the design, how does it work. And we found ourselves, you know, looking at spacings, table sizes, lighting, you know, sort of almost instinctively. So our kids, you know, they always laugh at us because when we travel, they're like, "Oh, not another restaurant." Are we going to go to?
Here we go again.
And they sort of roll their eyes.
Yes, we love good meals, but we're very much driven to like what makes a place tick. So when you go there, it's not necessarily always the most beautiful restaurants or the places. There's something about the soul of a place that makes it work.
The ambience.
We just got back from a trip in Switzerland, and the restaurants weren't beautifully designed necessarily, but they had the soul to them. And we always find that it's not about how much money you spend on that fit out. It's about what we do is we're fortunate enough to get the right operators that approach us, that have this inherent passion for what they do. So we know the outcome of the project will be quite successful because it's not just a design implementation. I can't guarantee the return of investment based on a drawing set and a sample finishes. But if the client's got that intent of just something that they really love, then we know that soul that we put in will be replicated on their side, and then the operations will be on top form, you know, the music, everything goes hand in hand together.
I have a super tick when I go to restaurants. My tick is that I always look at the details. How do the staff work? What's the food like? You know, what's the ambience like? So that's a horrible tick. You know, it's really disturbing sometimes.
It's fine. That's part of the job.
Does this happen to you guys as well?
Well, I think always. I mean,
always.
You know, we're always joking. We're always sort of measuring, you know, walking in, looking at spacing in washrooms, taking photos of taps and toilets and all the most random things.
Are you turning the chair?
Always.
No, we always.
Like,
Turn the camera to get the name tag at the bottom of the chair.
Do you always take pictures in the bathrooms?
It's so bad.
Millions.
Yeah. So bad.
Checking.
I don't because I try and be cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm like just being with the kids, and Dewald's the one that
did you see this marble? Did you see this spacing? How cool is this? You know.
No, I'm trying to distract to not make it so obvious, but it is fairly obvious. I think, when we do go.
One of my favorite restaurants here is Avli.
Yeah, same.
Food, ambience. It's
the little hidden gem.
No, it's amazing from everything. You know, design, food, everything. It's, you know, the whole concept is just an amazing restaurant. You want to tell me a little bit, or us a little bit about
how did the story of Avli?
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
You know, we went to site. There was an existing restaurant there, and at that stage, the restaurants weren't that out looking onto the DIFC. They was all sort of covered up. And we were standing on site, and I was standing with a client, and the client said, "Oh, we could potentially do this thing here." And I said to her, "Look, I think that the layout is wrong. The entry point's wrong. It's not focusing onto the Burj. It has spectacular views of downtown, and it's not maximizing that." And so we started envisioning this restaurant, the space, how it needs to work, how we need to move the bar to create this sort of central anchoring element. And then obviously with Neydine as well, they did multiple trips to Greece. So the client said, let's do something Greek-inspired. And it involved the trip to going to Greece, finding artists and artisans. And, all the different elements are all tied back to, different aspects of Athenian life. So, for example, the installation that was done, was a reference to clothing lines that you see sort of, in Greece, in the countryside. The way that we've sculpted the space, sort of a cave house, and obviously the fluted wall paneling, obviously from sort of Greek architecture. So
and the whole ceiling,
the whole moving.
That was an artist, right?
It was an artist. She's actually a very good friend of ours. We studied together, but she, for her thesis, went into installation art, and she's still practicing that. And she came up with this. We said to her we wanted something that had movement. It had to be quite a sophisticated clothing line, which it was really. But obviously, we don't say that. The client knows that, and because she's also a Greek South African, she appreciated that we could take something so very humble and transform it into something quite beautiful aesthetically, like quite sophisticated. But that we did with the artist. So she was just here 2 weeks ago to replace it. So they have replaced it about 3 or 4 times.
Oh, really?
So they do. She comes, she takes it down, and she puts it back up. And for her, she said it's quite meditating because it's something that she
loves doing.
She loves to do. Yeah. So she comes, she just puts it back up, and now it's a beautiful installation again. And it's interesting. Avli has been the venue that resonates with quite a lot of designers and people. And I think I'm not sure what it is about it, but it's got like a very serene
soul. It has soul
feeling
to it.
I definitely think that you guys matched all of the point in the right way. It's just
with this project.
Great. Every point is on spot on it. And it obviously helps that the food is amazing as well.
Delicious.
So, I must say, yes. In Dubai.
Can't take credit for that. But yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Working with artists.
Working with artists, because we can see that how you started with Avli, and then you use this in each and every of your project, has artifacts, work with artists, work with designers. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you bring art and artifacts into your projects?
Good question.
I call it, we do art as an installation, which I more refer to functional art. So we always look at how we can bring in art in a way that can enhance the experience, whether it's a type of lighting installation or some form of piece that is a focal point that is made that is quite unusual. And we have a little black book of artists that we do.
You do?
Like
I want to get my hands on this book.
Currently,
I'm sure all the listeners now
we're on the hunt for more local artists here.
Oh, I will tell you a couple of them.
Oh, really?
Amazing.
I will tell you a couple of great local artists.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
we find that there's like a nice balance to work with artists. Some artists, we understand that it takes them a longer time to execute, and we have to nurture and be patient, but the outcome is spectacular. And then there's the other side is where they are quite understanding to what we need to do in terms of time frame, but the outcome is equally beautiful. So we've got the balance between working with really passionate and the nurturing artists to create what we need to, and then also the artist that understands the design side. So our black book is almost divided between what is our timelines and our time frames, and how we can go about creating that atmosphere.
How do they come about? How do you guys approach different artists?
Or do you approach you?
No, but also this black book. I want to know more about the black book. Do you guys write? These are the artists we want to work with. Bam, bam, bam. And then you guys approach them, or how does it go about?
I think usually, as Neydine said, we deep dive into our concept and we decide what is it that we want to portray and tell. What is the story of this space? And as we develop it, we find there are these moments and these sort of where we can actually have a great art piece developed. It needs to be filled with something that you can't buy off the shelf. And typically then we'll say, well, this artist has done great here, or they could do a beautiful piece here, and this would really enhance the overall, the feeling and the experience of the space. So typically that would be like, let's do a beautiful installation here because it would fill this. We need this sort of glowing space or this glowing feeling, or we need, we need a tactile surface that's more detailed at an entrance or a lobby. So really, we sort of decide what we need for that will enhance the project.
But we have a lot of artists contacting us for work. Like they would say, like, "Oh, amazing! We love your work. We would love to collaborate with." So we do.
Nice.
We do have people reaching out to us, which
You
is
write them in the
amazing.
book.
And then
You add them.
and then we have artists that we see who does work, and then once we do the concept development, we're like, oh, I've seen this work. Let's reach out and see if they've got capacity, if they fit within budget, or whatever the case might be. But the thing is, the artist, it's both ways. We either have someone that we reach out to, or they reach out to us. But I think in terms of it's collaboration, it is quite an exciting space to be in. I think if you've got a black book here, it would be nice to share a few tips.
I'm gonna start getting a black book. A great idea, by the way. Yeah? No, but I know a lot of local great artists that
so
I'm
many
sure you can
wonderful
do magic with, guys.
Yeah.
I worked with an artist once. Fabio Biale is an Italian marble sculpturist.
Yeah, you mentioned him before, and I also.
So he basically sculptures all of his artifacts from
Stunning.
marble and makes them into either a body or a body part or whatever, and then he tattoos them. So he tattoos the marble.
Interesting.
Super interesting
But
artist.
tattoos with what?
On top of the sculpture.
With ink, he goes in and
Really?
on the
So he
marble.
engraves into the marble
Yeah,
with-
super
interesting.
cool.
Amazing.
I think he's from Milan. You should
beautiful.
have a look at him.
Oh, amazing.
Great.
I know that that you guys specialize in F&B. What are the recent projects you're working on?
We do mostly F&B and residential.
Yeah.
So we do. I wanted to say earlier with the VERHAAL telling a narrative. The reason for the F&B was more to be able to share that narrative.
Yes.
It's like opening a book and being able to share the book with as many people as possible. But we do a lot of residential work, and I think for us that gives us a lot of budget. I mean, that's from a budget point of view is a lot.
It's much faster.
It's faster.
Easier.
It's quite exciting.
Yeah.
But it also gives us the opportunity to flex design muscles without, it's almost like a taster for us, because we can push the client a little bit more or less. We've got a bit more, not more time, but we have more personal rapport with the client to understand what their needs are in terms of their family relations and how they operate in the space. But then that also gives the artists a lot more, flexibility in terms of what they want to do and how many different pieces we can incorporate into the house. So for us, it's like a nice balance. But the other side for the residential is we can't share it. You know? So that's the one side that we can't share. But
especially in the region.
Especially in the region. Yeah, so we're used to it by now, but it is interesting that luckily we've got the books that we can share, like the stories we can share and the stories that we...
Commercial and private.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one do you prefer?
They're both. I mean, like Neydine says, they each have their own, sort of plus and minuses. I think what's nice about the commercial projects is that they are commercial in that they have a start and end date, even if they go longer. And I think the other thing about the commercial projects in F&B, which I find really exciting, is that it's bigger than just one person or one trade. It's about the operator, the owner, the architect. It's about food. It's about music. It's about service. To bring that successful feeling together is more than just the interior designer's job. And I find that collaborative effort really great. It's that's really inspiring. And I think with the residential work, it's great as well. Like Neydine says, we get really personal relationships with our clients. We understand what they want. They give us unbelievable freedom and flexibility to do spectacular things. So
I love that part with residential, that you go in and you become one with your client, and you go through the trip together.
It's very personal trip.
It's so personal,
it's
and I actually love residentials. For me, is my favorite.
I must say F&Bs are my favorite, absolutely favorite.
I know for me,
I have to dive into
F&B.
F&B.
Small soft spot for F&B, but I've always had. But I think you've all come from architectural background, so we have a good balance between the two. But I just love like when the kids say, "What have you been working on?" Like for the past.
How involved are they?
I'm like, "Oh, come, let's go look." You know,
They're
then I can
forced.
take them.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it. Then we
Yeah.
sit there and then. You know, I can physically share it with the family and friends, but that's why I love F&B. It's because
Amazing.
that I can physically
Yeah.
share it. So, but between the two of us, we have a good balance between.
But I also feel
personal
it's
and-
much more artistic, as you said. You can actually be involved in everything. You can be involved in, like, you know, the menu design, the branding, everything from the flooring to uniform. And that's such
It's
a great
exciting.
experience when people come and they share that and they're like, oh my God, this place is so nice. And I'm sure you've experienced it so many times because you've completed so many nice projects like Flamingo Room. Every time I go to Flamingo, I'm thinking that, oh, it's such a nice feminine space, you know? And or bungalow.
Bungalow. Yeah,
Yes,
I was just going to say
is
bungalow,
really
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. But also, I love to hear the feedback on each different venue. Everyone's got completely different feedback from each venue. Some people will say, you know what, in bungalow, you know, we love this energy, but, you know, Avli's got this like super soulful energy because we feed off it, because they would say, and every time they go to different venues,
Do you welcome feedback like that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I
you
like
do?
it.
Yeah?
Yes, I do. Because it's subjective. It's almost like an art piece you put
Yeah,
out.
it is very
You sit with the
subjective.
client. It's their personal endeavor that they go into, and you assist them to make their dream a reality. So for me, I mean, we had this conversation before where someone said, you know, they might not, that might not be their favorite. And I'm like, but you know, my client walks in there every day and she texts me at least once a month to say, I just love it. Like it's my most favorite place in the world. And that's the ultimate goal that he wants.
Look, F&B,
That's
retail, or hospitality, there is obviously a timeline attached to designing one of these, you know, and usually it's not of your choice or of the client's choice, you know.
It's an investment.
It's an investment that
In the
you're
end of
so
the day.
it's a completely different respect that you have to, you know, look into when you're going into F&B or hospitality or retail. How do you guys set that up? Do you usually clients in Dubai is saying, I wanted this yesterday. How do you go around that, you know?
That one, it's fine.
Look, at the end of the day, I mean, what we try and explain to our clients is that our creative process takes time. You know, for us to develop something from A to Z, and to find artisans and to find the right people and to find the right things takes time. And we would be doing our clients a disservice if we can promise them that we can churn out a Flamingo Room in 2 weeks. We can't do that. You know, so we're very honest with our clients about that. And we said, look, if you want to come on this journey with us, let's develop something beautiful and something special, but we do need the time. Right. And most of the time, we're lucky enough that our clients are willing to come on that journey with us. And our projects do take quite a lot of time to develop. And, you know, at the end of the day, that is what they come to us for, is to create something spectacular and something that's unseen in a way. And I think people understand that. Obviously, we do have projects that are much faster paced.
So we might, you know, have a return client that says, I've just signed the site, it's really urgent, and we've already worked together, so we would like push it a bit forward, but it's not ideal. It does happen, not often, but we're actually quite strict on timelines, what we can deliver, and a lot of the times we just say, sorry, we're just not able to assist, and sometimes they end up waiting for us until we can assist them. So we're also very particular as to how and when we take on
It's very
projects.
transparent, which is the best way, I think.
What would you say is a reasonable? Of course, it's very objective to what space you have in front
Dubai,
of you,
right?
but in Dubai, what's a good for you guys? A good timeline for?
Look, it depends on the size and also what they want to do. You know, we always say that F&B is such a blanket. You know, you could have, you know, QSR all the way down to fine dining. Depends on the size and the space, but typically for us to come up with a concept is around 3 weeks. For us to, you know, sort of really rack our brains of what we want to do, you know, sort of get an idea of color, mood, texture, the feeling and the narrative is about 3 weeks. And, you know, normally the feedback on those concepts are very, very well received. You know, our clients find that we've really sort of hit to the core of what they couldn't explain to us, and what they couldn't put there. You know, they can't verbalize what they want, and we show them what they actually wanted. So I think 3 weeks is a good sort of timeline for a concept.
That leads to my next question. I know that you've lived for quite some time in Australia. Do you see the difference in design and F&B design, the deliverables in Australia and here in Middle East?
Yeah, major. I think Australia is. We love living in Sydney. It was a beautiful place to live in. It's very outdoors focused. People are focused on outdoors and well-being and product based. People are very interested in the quality of their food and
where it comes from.
Where it comes from. Whereas in the Middle East, we are very internally focused. Because of the weather conditions here, we do spend a lot of time indoors. So it is very important that when you sit in a space, that you can stay there for 6 hours or 7 hours. You need to be able to be comfortable in a space.
For about 6 months? 6 months
Yeah.
we're in and 6 months
Correct.
we're out.
So they spend on hospitality is not as high or as not important, but it's not as forthcoming than what it would be here. Here it is quite competitive, I also think, because the past 2 years it's been quite. I can see like our clients are getting a bit nervous,
new concepts.
It's a lot of new concepts, but exciting concepts, like
very
unique
nice.
concepts, not something that you're bringing in from the UK or something. It's like new concepts starting to grow here and sprout here, which is
super
amazing.
strong. UAE in general is super strong when
With
it comes to F&B.
Yes.
I would say maybe we're one of the top in the world when it comes to F&B.
Absolutely.
Especially as a quantity.
Yes.
Now, if you go to other countries, you have plenty of good restaurants in Japan or in France or in Italy, but as a small country, as UAE is, and filled with so much passion and so much,
But also what differentiates us is that here we really go out. Especially in Dubai, right? Unlike many other countries, like there is always a new venue, there is always something new, there is always something hip. So, and we always go out, right?
We do.
So hence it creates a lot of new cool concepts, right? Yeah. So what would be your favorite? Give us top 3 best places for you right now.
Oh my goodness. We're very excited to see Gigi's open.
Okay.
Gigi's is opening, I think, this month or early November. So that I would say would be one of the exciting ones.
That's going to be our next episode. We're going to discuss it next time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that would be that. Which one did we have? I don't even know which one.
I don't know. There's always like a long list of places we sort of hop in, have a coffee here, have a drink here.
We just went to Onda this week, which is not an F&B, but it's a very cool, beautiful coffee.
Beautiful space.
Beautiful space.
It's very nice.
Beautifully crafted by Bond
Studio.
Yeah.
We went there, we had coffee, and it was just so well curated. It's just fun because we also know it's local.
The owner loves design. He loves F&B. He has great places around Dubai. He is very, very into design, the owner. So he really focused a lot, and I'm very surprised. I had to sit down with the owner, and I was so surprised by the choice of furnitures and choice of materials.
And the colors.
Very bold.
Yeah, very bold.
Very bold.
It was very Gucci.
Very good.
It's the couch. It's the couch. There was the couch.
I didn't know in Milan. Did you go to the
Yes,
but
of course.
he put the couch before Gucci. Really,
I see.
I have to back that up.
I was like, I love these colors,
and that has to be in this episode.
He actually opened up around April, I think. When we were around.
That was around.
I think
Milan,
around that period.
You see, Dubai is one step ahead.
I see that.
Definitely.
We are a few steps behind. It's on this week.
Well, you guys are traveling. You're traveling a lot, obviously, and that's a big part of your work and going and traveling, working not only regionally, you also work a lot in other countries. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how that is, because I sometimes would say that it's a little bit of a struggle. I worked a couple of projects here and there outside, but how is it to work in other countries and keep the same type of quality that you guys are used to? Because when you come to another country, you don't really know what you're gonna face. When it comes to contractors or when it comes to how do you guys manage, or how do you feel that that's an issue, or is it like an obstacle for you guys?
We originally started our business in Australia with 100% of our work always being in Dubai. So we built our business and our studio on the idea that we weren't in the same country. So for us to do work today in London or in New York, it's very easy for us. We understand that we don't have to be on site the whole time. We understand what are the key sort of moments.
When do we need to be on site?
When it's really important for us to be there, when we need to have the sign off with a client, when we need to be there to hold their hand to open the venue. Those sort of we've come to learn when those key areas we need to be there. But I think for us, design is a universal language. So you can sit in your home and do it. You can sit it at the airport. You can sit and do it. And ultimately, if you can conceptualize that space, and the idea behind it, we don't feel we need to be on the ground in that country to execute.
I know we touched it a little bit, but how does travel affect your design? I'm sure it does in every single way, right?
We always say that the more we travel, the more we realize we don't know anything.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, 100%.
Every time we go somewhere, we're just like, how did we not know about this?
Did not see this before.
Yeah. It's just so incredible. On our recent trip now to, for example, to Budapest, and we were in Switzerland. We were also in Greece this summer. I mean, we keep on going sometimes to the same place, sometimes to different places. But every time we find new pattern, new texture, new inspiration, new nature, new people. It just makes us realize that there's just so much more to be seen, and that we can draw inspiration from.
What is something that you guys, because you said, how didn't we know this before? Give me an example.
We will see this element in the next design. It's in the black book.
No, I mean, this is the first time I went to Switzerland, but that was more from a construction build point. I mean, it was very much like very different construction typologies, how they were putting together. They were busy building a school in a new villa or a new house close to the hotel. And it's something that we just haven't seen before. But also the way the construction was built, the details on the timber cladding. Like, you've seen it before in pictures, but we haven't actually seen the reason why it was there. And every walking the kids up to the summer school, we could see each house had a different pattern as a personality trait to the house, but it was still out of the same construction methodology. So that was quite new for us, because that's something that we've never seen, and it had a lot of merit to the region. So it helped us to understand why things also work the way it does, and why things work here, for example, the way it should do, and how can we incorporate small elements like that into our own design and maybe create like a new aesthetic, or so in a future project. So that was something quite new.
How do you infuse all these personal touches in your design later?
Exactly.
The most difficult country to work in?
Here. Oh no, I wouldn't say here. No, I don't know.
Look, I don't want to ditch, so I won't. But look, I think the Middle East is quite easy to work in, right? Because it's a construction country.
Yeah,
we know we need to yalla get on with it, get stuff done, and people understand that sentiment. Some of the other countries we worked, it is a lot of red tape. There is a lot of heritage. There is a lot of sort of no's and blockages, and you can convert those into positives and inform the design, etc. But it does, in a way, I guess, hamper some of it. I think some of the designs that we've done,
the creative flow,
the creative flow. But I think some of the designs we've done here, would have been very difficult to conceptualize and actually execute if it wasn't for the fast pace and the freedom we've been able to have here in the Middle East. So that's we're really fortunate to be here and to be part of this.
100% agree on that. Every time we design something, there is something that has to be the best, something that has to be new, something that has to be fresh. Where else in the world you get opportunity like that?
No.
I think this is very rare. We are very fortunate. Yeah. So, what would be the next step for VERHAAL? How big is your company, and what is the next step for your studio?
We're currently 20 people, and I think for us this is a good size. We don't really want to grow our studio much larger than this.
Yeah.
I think we've come to realize that there are much bigger projects out there. But for us, we would like to keep a personal touch to our projects. We really enjoy the process of design, seeing the things come together, having a relationship with our clients. And I think it's a good size studio for us to have great medium-sized projects. Restaurants in general aren't that big. They need time and they need love, but they're not massive. They're not, hotel scale, that sort of thing. So we really enjoy these sort of this sort of niche that we find ourselves in. So, I think for now we're happy with the size of our studio and where we find ourselves. Yeah.
And we are currently working with a Zalish company in Morocco. So because we're specifying Zalish for a lot of projects, we came up with a journey and a narrative. We're working on another project, and we found that this could be a good opportunity to launch an own tile range.
That's
And
very
they actually
interesting.
approached us. So we were like, oh,
Wow.
amazing. It's been
That's
something
really
we've been
cool.
talking about for a while. So that will be a downtown design, which will be really fun.
Oh, we're looking forward to
Amazing,
this
yes.
for sure. Yeah.
So it is, it's based on
This downtown,
this
right?
downtown.
Yeah.
And it's a range developed with a UK brand, and it's about the jewelry and the ornamentation of women from the Middle East, and we've extrapolated into like a story and with the colors and everything. So it's quite exciting. But for VERHAAL, I think it's about the story. It's the story that we want to tell, and there's a purpose for the story. So I think if we can do collaborations like that with purpose, then, and it came about because of a reason that we couldn't find something that spoke to that, and then we would like to collaborate a bit more.
You're nibbling a little bit on it. A question that I have, is there something that you would like, or if you could choose whatever, a project or something that would come on the table of VERHAAL, what would that project be if you guys could choose yourself?
Oh my gosh, a tough question.
Look, I think we're every year these projects do come past us. We go, this is a fantastic project for us. It's just the right operator, it's the right venue, it's the right budget, the objectives are correct, everyone is aligned. And we've been very fortunate that we've had these projects. It's very, very far in between that a project lands on our lap and we go, we really don't want this. It's most of the times the projects we go, this is such a great project. Like, let's do something spectacular, and they typically are, F&B in venues or standalone with great operators that are super passionate.
But I also feel like your clients, they know already. When they approach you, they know what to expect, you know, because they pretty much can see your portfolio, they can see your projects. And I'm sure every time they go to one of these places, they're like, okay, who designed this space, And I agree. It's a very difficult question. What would be your place that you want to design?
Oh.
Go on, Shad. Like one project
Yay.
on the table.
I would.
Go for it.
I would love. It would be a dream. I'm a huge fan of Aman.
Oh my god!
Oh,
If
yes,
Aman would
amazing.
come and say, "Hey, can you
Help
do
us."
our next hotel, next location?" That would be. I think
Amazing.
that would be an amazing opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I agree. It's another league as well. Yeah.
I think that's another.
Yeah. And a lot of good F&Bs.
I had the
Exactly.
president of the former president of Iraq that I did his mansion. I would say it was a 15-bedroom mansion in Iraq, and that was done completely through Zoom. It was during COVID, so it was completely me sitting in Dubai and their contractors and everything in Iraq, and that was so difficult. At the same time, it was such a fun project to do. So that was also one of my headlines. It's always fun to do a mansion for a president, no?
Oh, well, like Theo was like, it is indeed. Wow. Nice COVID project.
Yeah, nice
How
COVID.
did you do that remotely? It's been challenging.
It was very challenging.
But it is nice to have a client that has the trust in you to be
Trust.
able to do it with such. I mean, obviously the conditions was no one's doing,
No.
but that you were able to execute it.
To be honest, I think it went so smooth because they made sure that they had contractors that did what
They had to do.
they had to do. And it was a lot of free hands, and he was okay with if something didn't work out, we figured out a solution.
Just say it. Was it Design and Dewald? Yeah.
It was not designed.
It wasn't designable. Oh, amazing. Wait, I have a question for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
tables are
Go for
turned.
it.
Yeah, so I want to know, how did your podcast come about?
Oh, good question.
Interview. It's a...
Yay.
Reverse.
I
Yeah,
love
the
that. I
tables.
love that. Interactive. Look, I will give you actually a lot of
Yeah.
kudos in this because
Yeah.
we were traveling in Milan. It was Salone di Mobile, and we were traveling, and we went. Me and Valeria, we had one full day. We were with your husband Mo as well.
Yeah.
we left him. He had a lot of meetings or something, and we left him. We said, let's do one day, me and you, and we went around.
Yeah, we wanted to see all the specific places and
we went to. Do you remember how many places we saw?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the queues were absolutely.
Not at Salone. You mean at the
in the city?
in the city?
In the city.
In the city.
Yeah.
In the city. We didn't go to the fair.
Okay.
About
15?
Yeah,
20?
something like that.
And anyone that has been to the Fuori Salone in Milan knows that doing 15 places
in one
It's
day.
a lot.
in one day,
go.
it's
Yeah.
almost
Is
impossible.
it doable?
Yeah.
Is it doable?
is.
That's the question. And then we sat down, we were like, we know so many talented people.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that we don't put them together and we start interviewing, people, not only people in Dubai, but also people outside of Dubai, and try to, link people together and hear the creators' stories. And so we felt that we sat in a position where we were like, it's a shame that if we know all of these people, let's put them together, let's listen to their stories. And it's not often that you find a podcast where you actually maybe go in a little bit more about who is the creators, You go to a nice restaurant and you see it. And then, some people will go in and they will see who the design firm is behind it. But
They don't know who the person is behind it.
who is the person behind it?
But also the world has become so globalized, and we really, like I told you before, we have so many fantastic companies here, and it would be very interesting for them to share their stories
100%.
and to share their knowledge, with a lot of listeners. So we have it seems like a very small industry, but I feel like Dubai is really filled with really great talents. So that was hence the podcast was born.
Amazing.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's incredible, because we know there's good talent here, but you don't always have the time or the opportunity to also be able to listen to the stories or at least connect in some way or form. So it's nice to be able to
Did you just realize something? We have a black book as well.
We definitely have a
We have a black book
right?
as well. Their name was in our black book.
In
yeah.
Black Book,
Oh,
yes.
Black Proof designers.
Black book designers.
talents.
Who are we? Who are getting
Yeah.
interviewed?
So how is it to work together, to be life partners and work partners? This has always been a very fascinating question for me, isn't it?
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
especially as designers, where you have to bring all your creative power, everything, and how do you also separate your work life and personal life?
We don't.
True.
I think we always joke, our conversations are very mixed. We'll switch from a work email to a sample to someone doing a drop-off at school to what we're having for dinner, what holiday we're planning next. It's all mixed together, so...
But it took a while to get to that point.
Yeah, I think...
Because the company or the studio also came about not in a formalized manner. It was more in an informal manner. So I think it took us the better part of 3 years probably to find our own niches as to what we are really good at. And we are very good at very opposite subjects or things in the business. And then that comes together, although design is our core focus, but Dewald's very good at other things that I am not as good at. So his strength is my weakness and my weakness is his strength. And it took us probably about 3 years to get to that point where we were very comfortable
As a team,
and we are filling each other up. So we're actually very fortunate to be able to say that.
That's
because
amazing.
that's
Yes, it
something
is
that people
amazing.
ask us all the time, and their sentiments like they won't be able to do it. But Dewald needs me to do certain aspects and I need him, and together we've been able to do something quite spectacular. So I think it was meant to
works
be,
out.
I think.
Yeah.
If you manage to do that and really accept and respect the other one's strength, then it gets easier. I know me and my wife, I know she's definitely the organized one.
Right.
She's the one that, would structure everything, bam,
Yes.
bam, bam.
Excel.
And I'm the crazy guy.
Yeah.
I would be everywhere and do everything that needs to be done. Who is what?
He's your wife.
He's my wife.
Your wife.
He's
I'm
the
here
organized
with
one.
mine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm very very not organized.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more like scattered in terms of thought
Creative.
process, and he's a lot more like process driven, which is amazing. That's why we
I
work.
don't
Yeah.
think you give yourself enough credit, really.
Operations.
I think the thing is it's about realizing what you're good at and what you're not, and also calling yourself out and the other person out on what you need to get done. So we know that certain things are just not; those are not my tasks, and certain things are not Nadine's tasks; it's the other partner's tasks.
Right.
And it's unfair on both of us. It would be unfair for her to ask me to do things that I'm not good at. The same for me. I wouldn't ask her to do things that I know that these are the things that I'm normally supposed to be doing. So I think it's about
But
that.
what helps us a lot, this is more on a personal level, is like we have a check-in system. Like when I can see he's having an off day, for example, I would say, where are you? And he would say, I'm sitting at 20%. Then I know I have to pick up the 80%. So I would
Interesting.
be a bit more assertive at the office or the studio. I would make sure that I'm at home for the kids, and then I won't call him. I would.
That's a very nice life hack.
So the other check-in would be, I would be like, Dewald, I'm sitting at 1% today.
Yeah.
Today,
And that
it's
just
not like-
means-
And
Do
then
you
he
do you, do you
knows-
do you tell each other in the beginning of the day or during the day, or when does that check-in
I mean,
come?
it's just
It's a check-in that at some point you just know someone is not at the 50% mark, because it's usually 50-50. If you can see that, you would say where you're sitting, and then the person would just call it. There's no discussion about it. It's just literally
It's a red
the
flag. It's
other,
like
other
help.
person knows he has
Yeah.
to just put a bit more effort in for the day, whether it's with the kids or with the studio or the project or with the client. But we don't talk about it. It's just something that we just understand that because you can't do 50%. You do 50% most of the time, but some days you're just having
You can't, yeah,
you're just having a
of course.
20% day.
I would love to work with my wife. I think
Yeah.
we would be a great duo together.
But you're working now, like since you launched Paddle Edition. That's
She,
yeah.
whatever she's doing, I let her do it, and I could, blindly trust whatever she's doing, and I know it's gonna be 110%.
Yeah.
So, but I would love to work together, as in,
As a formality.
as a formality. Yeah, it would be.
But we always say, even if things are, it's not always perfect, but we always say we're doing it together. And we're actually quite fortunate, and we always say that we see each other literally
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
That's nice.
And it's actually nice
That's
because we
nice,
always
yeah.
have some connection, and everyone says, the nature of our design is, of the work is long hours. We don't do necessarily long hours anymore, and we don't encourage it. But if someone has to work late, we don't have to explain it. We don't get upset about it.
True.
Because I
guess the vision is aligned.
the vision is aligned, what we're working towards is aligned. It makes the conversations a bit more enjoyable, easier. I don't have to. I think that is what people sometimes don't understand. You don't have to explain certain things because the vision is there, and whatever you're doing is for the better of the entire family and for us as a husband and wife. So I
it's
think
a creative
for us,
duo.
it's quite a nice.
Before we
story.
dive into the last question, if the client sends you guys, one of you guys, for a trip to come with them, who is going, and do you guys have an argument about that?
No, we don't.
No, you don't.
No,
It's
we
always
don't.
you. Always you go.
You pick the destination.
Sorry,
Nadine, just say it.
unfortunately, I mostly go on all the fun discovery trips, and Dewald gets to go on the site visit trips.
Which I am,
He does the site visits, and he does the more.
Not so much fun trips.
No, it's for me, I really enjoy what we
enjoys
do.
it.
So I enjoy, if we've got a factory visit in Europe and we're seeing stuff there, for me to jump on a plane, go see Italian furniture makers and that sort of stuff, I love that. For me, that's not a punishment at all.
Yeah.
It's the same for me when I walk onto a site and it's a blank canvas and we're saying, well, what are we going to put in this space? And no one knows where to start. And for us, it's so obvious where to start. It's like,
See,
let's
that's why
do this.
we work, because he really enjoys.
Yeah,
So-
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the end of each episode, we asking our guests to answer the question from the previous guest, okay, and ask the question for of the next guest. So the previous guest asked the question: what would be your legacy, or what would you want to leave behind you? Let's say in 50 years' time. It is a difficult question.
I love that question.
Yeah, that
I
was
love
a-
that
yeah.
question because 50 years is a very long lifespan. So,
I think
So
we
we-
have a bit of a different view about the.
but
the
tell us both
legacy.
views.
Yeah.
Tell us both views.
Okay, you
I
can
think I think we sort of legacy for us is maybe not the correct way of it. It's not something that we're chasing as to leave this sort of lasting legacy. I think the projects that we do are about feeling, and it's about creating a moment an experience. The project we do are interiors. They'll get ripped out. They'll get retrofitted. They'll get repurposed. I think for us, it's not about leaving a legacy. It's about living in the moment. It's about creating something beautiful now that is right for the space and time where we find ourselves. Which I find the way that we see Dubai is very much like that. People in Dubai are very much focused on the now. Because you do realize that it might not be that permanent. I think if you live in a different country, perhaps the country you were born in, you have this false sense that it is permanent, which it's obviously not.
Right.
But here, people are more aware of the fact that things are impermanent. And I think for us as designers, we think about our designs as something that is not necessarily permanent, and it's not a strive to leave a legacy.
We have the same answer.
For once.
Was that the same answer? Was that the same?
It was the same answer.
Oh,
Amazing.
really?
I thought we didn't, but we
That's
do.
a very interesting way of seeing it.
But there's this thing now about like longevity and health and a focus on like wellness. It's been coming people are quite focused on it.
Right. Yeah.
You're going for a retreat next week, and just to get your wellness.
I don't want our listeners to know where I'm going.
Sorry, back up to 100%. But those are the moments we are able to encourage people to have that sense of wellness on a weekly basis or a daily basis by being part of their like home environments or the venues they go to or choose to go to. So for us, it's more of a satisfaction for us to be able to give them those moments on a weekly or a monthly or a daily basis.
Yeah.
Amazing. Guys, for our next guest,
yes,
what would you want to ask? A question that the next guest would answer to.
Any question.
Any question.
For our next designer guest. Designer, architect.
So if I had to ask, my question would be if your design process was a soundtrack, what would be the top 3 songs?
I think that's a really
Love
fun...
that question.
Yeah. And
Love
I'm
that
sure
question.
a lot of designers are really into... would have a really cool
Soundtrack?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Guys,
thank you so much.
super thank you.
Thank
it was a very
Such
good
fun
one.
discussion.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
No, we loved it.
Yeah?
And see you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Amazing.
Thank you.
See
Good
you
luck
guys
with the
in
work. Thank
in
you.
downtown.
See you in downtown. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you in downtown.